I need one of you guys on the south side, one of you guys on the north side, hold all traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching. It just lost their steering. So until you get that under control, we got to stop all traffic.
And what we saw in this case was the Chesapeake Bay pilots immediately on the loss of power issued out that Mayday. They knew they were in trouble. And that was the best you could do. As quickly as you can, get that out. They have independent power sources for the radios. They sent that Mayday out. And understand, 4 minutes doesn't sound like a long period of time, but it would have flown by in a second and at the same time be the longest 4 minutes in their lives as they were on that vessel. So they knew they had to do everything they could.
Once you get here, I'll go grab the workers on the Key Bridge and then stop the outer loop.
C-13 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
Simple dispatch is direct.
That's correct. This time.
Do we know if all traffic was stopped?
I can't get to the other side, sir. The bridge is down. We're going to have to get somebody on the other side, the Anne Arundel County MSP, to get up here and stop traffic coming northbound.
That they were having an issue. You know, what we don't know is what caused the power outage. Was it a bad fuel? Was it a clogged water intake? Or was it electrical that caused the systems to trip and overload? Again, you know, having sailed, when you're on a ship and things go quiet, it's the worst sound you've ever heard. It really is. It's horrifying because you know you've lost control. There's nothing you can do. I mean, you're literally at the mercy of inertia and currents and winds. Well, it's everything. I mean, when you lose power, you lose the propeller, you lose the rudder. So, you know, I do have a question that when the emergency generator came on, because we see it, I mean, when the power comes on, that was the emergency generator. You can tell by which lights were on the vessel. It was the emergency generator. That generator should have enough power to power the rudder, but it didn't appear to be because the ship continued to drift southward.
I mean, at the same time, you know, if you like to do it in front of the captain.
So dock workers were reporting that there were power outages on the ship during cargo operations. And the question becomes, okay, what's the underlying cause of that? Was it something, you know, small? Was it rectified? We don't know. But, you know, that's an indication of problems with the vessel. And that should have been communicated to the pilots who are Chesapeake Bay pilots. These are pilots that come from Maryland to escort the vessel down. They're the ones who give the assistance to the ship's master. It's the ship's master who's ultimately responsible for the safe navigation of the vessel. So this falls on the ship's master. Did he or she take a vessel to sea that was not ready in all respects for sailing? You know, we probably need to be inspecting more often, more thoroughly. But if you don't have the people, you don't have the resources, you don't have the time, you have to do, you know, you have to target where you're going to do your inspections. And this ship, you know, looking at its inspection history was really good. It really was. There was Well, and again, it's going to get into the company involved here. The Singapore registry is a very good registry, I would argue. They have good documentation. They have good requirements. It's a Japanese classification agency, extremely good. I mean, so, you know, this is not a vessel. This is not a vessel from a flag state that raises concern. And, you know, ever was. And let's be clear, Dolly isn't a big ship. I know people like to call it big. It's about half the size of some of the behemoths that are out there today. And, you know, there weren't protections around the pier. I mean, this is why you need to talk about maritime infrastructure. This is a port that has just dredged. They brought big new cranes in so they can handle bigger ships. You know, but what was done to ensure the maritime infrastructure in and around? You know, well, they got to get the ship off first. So they got to stabilize the ship, make sure the ship is good. You don't want any more problems from the ship. You're going to have to remove the bridge from the ship. You don't want the ship, you know, it's kind of grounded right now up against the pier. So you don't want to pull it off and it winds up sinking on you, which I think is a very low priority. Well, I think, again, we're going to have a very laborious, long, kind of detailed look at this by NTSB and everybody. I would like to see a very quick kind of, quick assessment report, something we get from the FAA, we don't get from the NTSB sometimes, is these quick elements. What was the underlying cause? If the issue was an electrical problem on the ship, and we know then there should be an immediate notice that goes out to all the ports to make requirements so that if there is an electrical problem during a loading operation, it should be reported to the local Coast Guard district. That's something that can be done very quickly, if we find it. Most of the time we take for granted that everything works the way it is. It's these moments when something goes wrong that we start changing regulations. In the shipping industry, regulations are written in blood, and this is unfortunately what you tend to see.
Thank you for joining us. Today is really the first full investigative day on scene. We were able to board the vessel. I boarded the vessel around noon along with our marine safety team and our highway safety team. The operations and engineering group was able to board the vessel last night, and they did a walkthrough of the vessel, including the bridge and the engine room. They were looking for other electronic components, any sort of downloadable recorders, any sort of cameras, any sort of CCTV. They did not find any of those things, but that search continues. So we were able to confirm that there were 21 crew members on board the vessel at the time of this accident, plus 2 pilots. That's 21 crew members plus 2 pilots for a total of 23 individuals on board the vessel at the time of the accident. We did bring in one of NTSB's senior hazmat investigators today to begin to look at the cargo and the cargo manifest. He was able to identify 56 containers of hazardous materials. That's 764 tons of hazardous materials, mostly corrosives, flammables, and some miscellaneous hazardous materials, Class 9 hazardous materials, which would include lithium-ion batteries. Some of the hazmat containers were breached.
Information from the Dolly's Voyage Data Recorder, or what we call a VDR, was successfully recovered on the morning of the accident by the U.S. Coast Guard. It was provided to the NTSB upon our arrival. Approximately 6 hours of VDR data was provided to the NTSB. The recording included the time period from midnight to 6 a.m. At 01:24 and 59 seconds, numerous audible alarms were recorded on the ship's bridge audio. About the same time, VDR sensor data ceased recording. However, the VDR audio continued to record using the redundant power source. At around 01:26 and 2 seconds, the VDR resumed recording sensor data, and during this time there were steering commands and rudder orders recorded on the audio.
This bridge was in satisfactory condition. The last fracture critical inspection was in May 2023. We have not been able to go through that inspection and all the documents, but that will occur after we leave the on-scene portion. And so I have no doubt that we will be able to pull this together in hopefully 12 to 24 months. The question is, have we spoken with the pilot? There were 2 pilots on board at the time, and those interviews are scheduled for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.